Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to, well, not actually see you, but we see your names as you pop up, and it's great to get together again. And I'm sure all of us will agree, it's sort of hard to believe it's November and we're still communicating in this format, but I think it's something that we've all gotten used to over the majority of this year. Today we are going to talk about the fall semester, what has went well, what hasn't, some things that we've learned from, and then talk about strategic planning. We have four presenters today: Chancellor Domenico Grasso, Provost Sue Alcock, Emergency Management Director Laura Drabchuk, and Chief of Staff Keisha Blevins. We also have a few people on standby, if you will, if there's any questions or anything that our panelists or myself need help addressing. So their cameras are going to stay off and their microphones muted, but thank you all for being here today to support the panelists. So as you are aware and you heard, we are recording this webinar like we always do. We will share it with the campus community later this week. For those that were unable to join us today, and if any of you want to watch it again, you may. And we're also going to be hosting a similar town hall tomorrow for students, covering a lot of similar topics, as well as really talking more about student supports and what we're doing to ensure that the remainder of the semester goes smoothly as possible for our students, and also look ahead to winter. Just going through my notes here. So if you have any questions, there's a Q&A function along the bottom of the screen. I know one question has already been submitted. And also thank all of you in advance that submitted questions. We will address those as we go through the presentations if it's a natural fit, and then otherwise we'll wait to the end to address those as well. And then also it was suggested that we turn on the chat feature for all of the attendees. We are going to keep that off because the panelists want to be able to converse with each other, and we'll look into that suggestion for the next town hall. We were unable to make any adjustments before this one, so I just wanted to address that as well. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to Chancellor Grasso to kick off the webinar, and we'll go through the program from there. So Domenico.
Thanks very much, Ken, and thank you all for joining us today. And I'm glad that we're able to have these continuous communications, keeping the lines of communication open during this very difficult process here. First, I'd like to acknowledge all of our veterans that either study with us or work with us. Today is a day that we remember their sacrifices, their commitments to helping ensure the freedoms that we have all come to understand is what makes America great. And I want to thank all of them for their service today. I'd like to start off by also thanking all of you for all of your service during this very difficult time since the beginning of this crisis back in March through the end of the spring semester last year, the spring, summer, and the fall up until now, where everything that we have been planning for seems to be happening. And I think we're doing a very good job. I'd like to just go over some things that have gone well for us, as well as some of the things that were difficult for us. Some of the things that have gone well, first, let me just, before I say that, I do want to say that last night, the governor had a call with all of the presidents and chancellors of the universities in the state of Michigan, both public and private, to talk about the state of the crisis. And one of the things that was pretty frightening to hear is that their thinking is that we are 4 to 6 weeks away from a major crisis. We have about 20% of the ICU beds in the state are filled. 55% of the new cases are occurring outside of southeastern Michigan, so it's spread well beyond where it originally started. Our positivity rate in the state of Michigan is over 10%, which has climbed very steeply and dramatically since the summer, where it was around 3.5%. So we are facing some challenging times still ahead, and the flu season has not even really hit yet. So we are bracing for some tough times. However, what we have been planning for on our campuses seem to have paid off. We've had very low COVID cases on our campus. We've kept people off campus as much as possible, bringing them to campus only for necessary educational purposes, the lab courses and other courses that require face-to-face instruction. As you probably know, we're going to go fully remote on the 20th, next Friday, and we'll stay that way until the beginning of March, and go back to a hybrid modality only if it's safe to do so at that point. So we're, I think, continuing to offer a top-notch education and experience to the best that we can in the safest modality we can. Also, our budget numbers seem to have come in very close to what we predicted. We predicted to be down budgetarily about 3%, and we hit that almost on target. And we're prepared to go forward with the budget as we planned. We don't know for certain what's going to happen in the winter term or with the state appropriation next year, so we're still being very cautious about things. Things that have been a little bit more difficult is that we've had to cancel many on-campus activities, such as the academic clubs, the racing clubs, the rocketry club, as well as our athletic schedules. But we're pretty confident that these were all the right moves to protect our population. And I think it's bearing out in terms of some of other schools that are starting to follow suit as well. I'd like to also just end by saying that we are very thankful again for all your service. We've offered some additional season days as a way to say thank you. It's the very least we could do. I wish we could do more. It is a way for, hopefully, for you to regain some sense of or normality in a time that is really as unnormal as can be. And also, Maureen Linker just posted recently or sent out a note to everybody about a new resource through the library for movies. And I had an opportunity to look at it late last night and this morning, and there are some terrific opportunities there. It's all free of charge, and I want to thank Maureen for helping us. Also, another way of saying thank you to all of you for all of your hard work, and hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of that. I'm going to turn it over to the provost now, who can talk in a little bit more detail about how the academic side of the house is faring. I know it's tough. The students are really having to adapt. Faculty are having to adapt to things that we never thought were going to happen in this way. But everybody's been resilient, and I'm very proud. I am super proud of our university. I think that if anybody can point to a school that's doing things right, it is to us. And I'm very proud of our faculty, staff, and our students for being part of our community. So Provost Alcock, would you like to talk about a few things on the academic side?
Sue, you're on mute.
How many PhDs does it take to do a Zoominar? Right. So, hey, folks, try that again. So as Ken said, it's been about 3 months or so since we had a town hall. And if you can cast your mind back at the last one in August, we were sort of sitting on the verge of the fall term and sort of planning madly for a semester that we couldn't even begin to predict how it would go. So now here we are, and how have things gone? First, I too would say that the word that comes to mind is proud. I am very proud at how the campus community has navigated this semester so far. I am not sugarcoating or blowing smoke here. You know, there are undoubtedly some very serious issues. There are things we have to, address and improve for the winter and for the future. And I really want to get your input on those. But in what have been really profoundly difficult days, people have kept on carrying on, and you have all continued to show a care of others and a real commitment to our university purpose, for which I and my team are, beyond grateful. Now, of the many, many things to think about, top of the pile is how our students are doing. We've had a robust reporting system on student concerns, fed by many streams, M success reporting, COVID report lines, other input, faculty phone calls, all of which the Dean of Students has been triaging and following up expeditiously and well. Amy and her team have fielded and supported well over 335 individual students on over 450 individual issues. As you might expect, all kinds, technological to academic to personal. And in as many cases as we can, these are brought to resolution. And just to reiterate, if you see something, say something. Use the COVID report email or phone number. If we know, we can try to help. We also did a student survey, and I really would encourage everyone to take a look at it. Like most surveys these days, it was a limited sample size, but the data does accord with what we're hearing elsewhere, and we do have several wins. The majority of students seem to have established some home space and to have worked out the technology to do what they need to do. They appreciate feeling safe, and they like the flexibility. And FYI, by the way, of the reporters, 45% said they're working this term, just so you know. Less cheering, if unsurprising, is a lack of feeling of connectivity to campus. A question in tomorrow's student town hall has come in to ask about how to overcome the sense of alienation, and that is something I think we all have to think very hard about. And there's also a strong perception that student workloads have increased in remote courses this term. Now, there's been a lot of messaging, and I want to thank Carla Vecchiola and the Hub. They've been messaging and working around these issues. At the same time, though, recognizing that faculty too are, they're stretched. You are tired. So, we are and we will continue to offer as we can guidance and support as we get through the rump end of the term, and then rest a bit and then think how to build on those hard-won lessons for the future. I want to stress that line about rest, human resources, the Care and Equity Task Force, and many other people are concerned that folks aren't taking time off. So in a phrase you may be hearing again, if you need a day, take a day. And we also realize that we need to find and adopt new and better rhythms for work communications and flexible schedules. So please think about these things in relationship to your colleagues and your staff, and we'll be following up soon. Now, Laura is going to be speaking to our plans for winter 2021 in a sec, and and I for one cannot wait to get rid of 2020. Of the enumerations of all the horrible things that happened, Sean Connery was just yet another one. Looking farther down the pike, we're in the process of planning summer and fall. I want to thank Mitch Sullenberger and the group he's working with on this. The plan is, in a nutshell, to evolve and develop sort of some different scenarios of on-campus density and scheduling so we can adjust to whatever the pandemic is going to be throwing at us in the spring. I fully realize that folks are tired of being gum-like in our flexibility and our resiliency, but we don't have a lot of options, folks. So, and I know we can stay the course. So finally, to get additional feedback on winter, summer, and fall, we're going to be holding a series of listening sessions for faculty and staff. I think they start next week. I hope you can make one of those, or always feel free to shoot me or my team an email. We do want to hear so we can help, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Sue. And as you alluded to, Laura Drabchuk is up next as we prepare well, most of us have been fully remote, but there's a small percentage of faculty and students and some staff that have been on campus this fall. So Laura, if you could spend a little time, talk about what the rest of this semester will look like and things that we need to know to best prepare.
Sure, thanks, Ken. Before I get started into that, I would first like to thank each and every one of you for everything you have done since the start of this pandemic. Whether you've been working on campus or continue to work remote, your actions have made a difference and helped to support our efforts of keeping the campus densities low. We have all pulled together to make the fall term not only safe, but successful. Cases on the campus have been extremely low. And this is a direct correlation to our campus's mitigation strategies that we implemented and the quick action of our contact tracing teams, who jump into action each time there is a positive case to identify close contacts and quarantine classes as needed. And please understand, these decisions are not taken lightly. Now, taking a look forward, fall courses shift to remote instruction beginning Monday, November 30th, after our extended Thanksgiving break. Faculty and staff will have time off between November 25th and the 27th. Just because classes shift to remote instruction, there will still be some activities that will continue on campus, as they have throughout the fall term. These activities will continue through the end of the semester on December 22nd, and again will be available on January 4th through March 1st. The Mardigian Library will have external pickup and return service near the library entrance. There will be curbside service available from our bookstore. The food pantry is available by appointment. University research will continue at its current capacity levels, with students participating in necessary research for credit activities. Digital education studios in the library and castle will be available by appointment for faculty recording. Building access will continue through M-Card access and one-time card access procedures. Reservable temporary space for faculty and staff is available, but if you can, please stay remote. Wireless internet is available and will continue at the Fairlane Center campus parking lot. HR will continue to process I-9s, and equipment and laptop lending will continue and can be coordinated through the Dean of Students office for our students. We want to continue the safety of all throughout the holidays, and as we transition to fully remote, a best practice before students head home for the holiday is for those students living at the Union at Dearborn, Fairlane Woods, or Fairlane Meadows is to get a COVID test. Student Affairs and the Office of Emergency Management have partnered with M-Labs and University Health Services to bring testing to the Victor's Den at the Union at Dearborn on November 16th and November 18th between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and pre-registration is required. As we think about the longer campus break in December, the campus will be closed for the holiday from Wednesday, the 23rd through Sunday, January 3rd. I would like to thank the administration for the extra season days in acknowledgement of the efforts by all during these times. Lastly, by mid-February, we will communicate what to expect in March for a partial in-person return in the winter 2021 term. Thank you. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you, Laura. At this point, I thought that, so we have questions that came in regarding things related to COVID and the pandemic and the teaching semesters and the planning, and then there's strategic planning questions. So I think this is a natural break. I get some of those questions in that are tied into the topics that we just discussed. So Laura, I guess the first one's up for you. There's a question about, do we have a tracking system in place should someone on campus test positive for COVID?
Yeah, Ken, great question. Yes, we do have a system in place for tracking not only of faculty and staff, but for students. That's why we have the mitigation strategies that we've implemented on the campus with the card swipes. That enables us to identify quickly who might have been in what locations, whether that be classroom or even office space. And I think our efforts have worked very well, and this is signified by the low number of cases that we've had on the campus.
And I will echo, I'm part of the small group that comes together on Monday mornings, and the amount of work and tracing and outreach is phenomenal. And so definitely a shout out to Amy Finley's team and to Laura's team and to Rima. And, as Domenico shared, I mean, we're doing a lot right. And we're almost to the end of the in-person part of the teaching. And we're very fortunate to have the low number of cases that we have. Of course, we wish there weren't any illness. It wasn't any illness on campus, but there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into keeping everyone safe that is coming to campus. So congratulations there. Domenico, next question for you. Our campus response maybe isn't as consistent with other schools or other public facing venues in the area like restaurants or shopping malls and those types of things. And I know, I don't know if you want to comment about that, but I know you were very adamant and very, and rightfully so, back in the summer that you were going to do everything in your power to keep people safe. And I think we're seeing those results. But is there anything more you wanted to comment on our approach versus maybe what other schools or other venues are doing throughout the region? You're on mute as well. This is why I'm moderating. I think.
I think that will be the phrase for 2020. You're on mute.
I agree.
So, I'm sorry, but you're right, Ken. Different schools have taken different approaches, and for better or for worse, we are fortunate that we are the only 100% commuter campus in the state of Michigan. So we were able to limit our on-campus presence because we did not have to open any residence halls. And as part of that, we tried to devise a plan where we could offer the best educational experience for our students in the safest possible format. And we came up with what we have today. So we were not doing it in a comparative fashion. We were doing it in an absolute fashion to offer the safest and best educational experience for our students. And we were not taking our benchmarks from restaurants or grocery stores or any place else. So, which have different constraints. I mean, if they're not open, then they go out of business, right? So, and this is one of the problems that we're seeing here with the economy. But we were able to maintain our operation in the safest manner possible. And as you noted, and Laura has noted, it's paid off because we've had very low cases and we have not been a source of spreading the event or causing individuals to contract it.
Thank you. Sue, next one for you, maybe piggybacking on that student survey that went out, but the question was, how is data collected on synchronous and asynchronous preferences on course delivery? And then specifically, it was noted that some math classes are very difficult to teach if they're not in real time, to have the conversations with students at that time. Any comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've been sort of tracking and getting reactions on the synchronous, asynchronous, basically since we had to flip last spring. There was a digital education survey last spring, and then of course the survey that we just did. Incidentally, in that survey, students showed a preference for recorded lectures, 64% being generally or satisfied or very satisfied, compared to live lecturers, which was 45% generally or very satisfied. So, that's one indication, but anecdotal evidence. What are folks hearing? I hope some of the faculty use the midterm evaluations to get a beat on it. And I think this is something we have to sort of keep tracking in various ways, because I think attitudes on both part of both faculty and students are modifying a little bit as people get used to things, things that seem very difficult or, become more muscle memory now. So I think reactions, perceptions, at least for some folks, are constantly changing. That said, there's been an awareness from the get-go that some subjects are better taught in certain modalities. Math, I totally understand, but we've been having a lot of conversations in the Provost office with math lately. Languages, things where you really need the give and take. And then of course, the lab courses where it is so essential to also have not just people together, but equipment together. We've actually been doing it on campus. I think as the chancellor said, health and safety has to be first and foremost. But I think as we move forward, and experiment more with the range of different modalities, I think, we'll be dialoguing with faculty, with departments, to what would work, is more hybridity going to help, and ultimately quality of education is what we have to be thinking about here and prioritizing here after safety. So if you have specific courses you want to talk about or representations you want to make, reach out to me or Mitch or Maureen to discuss these things more fully. could probably say more, Ken, but that's probably enough.
Yep, no, that's good. I'm gonna, since you have the screen, the next question is, any insight on what summer and fall 2021 are looking like? That one put a smile on my face because we're still in fall 20 and we're talking. I know
Yeah.
going on.
Well, it's funny. We just had a Council of Deans meeting, and Laura came in and was and with Mitch was walking us through some potential scenarios. Laura, Mitch, do you want to kick in very briefly on this? Oop.
Yes, I think a lot of it is that our planning for the future, as was stated earlier, is based on kind of what do the metrics look like with the COVID pandemic situation. So our density is going to adjust. Our on-campus density will adjust according to those metrics, and we're engaged with any number of groups of faculty. We're trying to get granular level information when it comes to how Matt Sy is going to approach things, engineering, math, languages. So it takes a lot of people to kind of adjust where we're going, and it's somewhat difficult because anybody that knows how we course schedule, we tend to set our course schedule in February for the fall term. So the data that we will have won't necessarily be the situation on the ground when it comes to us offering up the classes, starting up classes in the fall of 21. But we'll work with what we have. But I want to give a shout out to Laura because she's been the brains behind the operation when it comes to making sure that we're in sync with Ann Arbor and listening to the health professionals.
And again, I would just reinforce, we're developing a couple different scenarios so that it's not like, wow, that's not going to work. We got to do something else all of a sudden. We're going to try to minimize the strain and last minute chop and churn that folks have had to deal with far too much lately.
Thank you. Domenico, question probably for you. We get this one every town hall, but people are wondering if we envision working from home continuing, once the pandemic is over. And I think this sort of dovetails into how the university's reimagined, as we go through this pandemic. But anything you would like to add on that question, common question?
I think that the pandemic certainly is going to change the nature of work, not just for people in the academy, but all across the country. And I think that there will be components that will be able to allow individuals to work from home after the pandemic, and others that will be coming to campus in a hybrid fashion, sometime on campus, sometime at home, and others that will be on campus continuously. It has changed. It's given us an opportunity to think about things, and we're going to try to make the most of this terrible experience in terms of what it can offer going forward.
And then we frequently get this question too about the ELB. For those that have been on campus, the construction fence has been taken down and it's looking really, really great. And the question is when do we expect, when are people going to go into that building? I can actually answer this one, Domenico, if you don't know, but I reached out to Carol Fleck last night, but did you want me to take this one? Or
you can take it, but I'm happy to answer. But I since I'm answering all of them, I will let you answer this one, Ken.
All right. Now, according to Carol, who is leading the charge with the building, but faculty research is expected to begin in that building in January on a very limited and socially distanced and safe manner within all the guidelines. And then there will be moving in of faculty and staff offices, but then people are gonna work remote. They'll go in and then set up and then go back home. So and then as according to our winter plan, there'll be limited classes that will be offered in the building in March, the ones that need to be taught in person. So
yep. And just to emphasize it or reiterate what Ken said is it looks beautiful now with the fencing taken down. It really is quite striking on our campus.
Domenico, we'll stay with you. Just a couple questions about budget. I know you mentioned that our budget came in on pretty much on projection. You don't foresee any additional cuts or anything at this point?
I don't foresee right now, if everything holds the way we hope, I don't see any cuts. But winter term, the numbers aren't in yet. State appropriation next summer is up in the air. We don't know what additional costs COVID is going to inflict on us. So we've all got our fingers crossed, but we're doing our very best to plan so we don't do any personnel issues.
And then a final question in the budget category. Faculty and staff have noticed there's been a few positions posted, and we're, technically in a hiring freeze. And I don't know if you wanted to comment about some key hires that you feel we need to make in order to keep the operation working smoothly.
Yeah, I think you said it all, Ken. When we instituted this quote hiring freeze, we noted that there were going to be exceptions made for critical positions that we were going to need to protect health, safety, and continuity of operations. So we are making exceptions for those. An example is Vice Chancellor for Business Affairs. We went ahead with a search on that to replace Jeff's position there. And Carrie Shoemaker is chairing that search. We did not hire a search firm. We did it all internally. We added Dale Thompson and Chris Burke to the search committee since the last time we talked. There's 2 additional faculty members to participate in it, but that search is moving forward. We've got some great people in that search, and hopefully we will have someone that can start in the early part of the next calendar year.
And then final question before we switch over to strategic planning. But there have been, a lot of questions continue surrounding athletics. And I know you had addressed, the rationale that went into the decision making, but there appears to be still some uneasiness that there's a bigger plan for athletics that we're not being transparent about. I don't know if you want to just comment on that maybe one last time on your thinking, rationale with athletics, and your commitment to reevaluate the decision, in early February and when we start.
As I've said, and I mentioned this at the Regents meeting, this is a very, very difficult decision. I understand the importance of athletics to the student athletes and to the university community as a whole. And I have personal experience in athletics, so I really appreciate this. This was not an easy decision for us, but I continue to feel it was the right decision for us in order to keep our communities safe. We're in southeastern Michigan. Our positivity or infectivity rate now is it's over 10%, and on the 7th it was 13%. It's quite high. Our athletes come from a variety of different communities. They travel back and forth. We are not the Big Ten. I want to emphasize that. The Big Ten is only operational under medical supervision and testing their athletes once a day, and they're paying for that. We don't have those facilities to do testing. We don't have medical supervision. We also don't have the facilities, the ability to clean and disinfect all the facilities in a costly, cost-efficient fashion. So that taken in concert with the thinking that our students would be traveling to other universities in Ohio and Indiana, where the infectivity rate or positivity rate was even higher at that time than in Michigan, was just not a good decision to keep our student athletes safe. And our primary goal is to keep them safe and make sure that they can get a college degree. And that's why we made those decisions.
Thank you. Okay, so there could be some questions in the Q&A that we will go back to, but at this point it's 1:36, and we've talked a lot about where we've been and where we're going, with the winter semester, but there's some really big ideas and some really big advancements that the university is about to embark on with the continuation of our strategic planning process. So Domenico, I can display the card, what we're calling the card here, if you wanted to give your thoughts on where we are with in the process with strategic planning. You shared a communication with the campus a few weeks ago. back in October. And there's been some good progress made this semester on moving some of these great ideas forward.
Ken, I do, before, I just want to say, there is no plan to do anything with athletics that is going to eliminate athletics on campus. That is not going to happen. We're committed to having athletics on our campus. This is just a temporary pause for safety reasons, and we're going to think about how to move forward. I just want, because I saw some of the questions coming in, I just want to make that very, very clear.
Thank you.
Yes, can you share the
Yes.
screen? So as you all know, there's a lot of work that went into our strategic planning effort. Hundreds of people, thousands of hours that went into this, and we, with the help of Ken's outstanding team, put together a short summary of this on easy to navigate cards that can we just go to the first one? No, nope, no, right. So start here, and this is just a summary of everything that we've done, and then the distillation of our major initiatives through senior leadership conversations that involved a lot of folks, and looking at what we can do, what the highest impact is, biggest ROI, and in the best interest of our students. So this is essentially the summary of our strategic plan. It is available on this card is available on the strategic planning website, so you can take a look at it in your leisure as well. But it is a blueprint for student success, and it's subtitled because talent is everywhere and opportunity is not. And one of our major points of pride on our campus is that we are an opportunity, a gateway for opportunity and access for students that might not otherwise have had that opportunity. So this is an exciting strategic plan. I'll share some of the highlights of it. There are only three sections to this. First, we reiterate our mission here, and you can read this, and then we go through the I'm not going to read this, so you can look at it yourself, but then we talk about how we realize our mission. We also now I'm getting vertigo here, Ken. That's okay.
I'm trigger happy, clearly.
What's that?
I'm trigger happy here.
So this is just a restatement of what has been on our website for a long time, with a little bit of polish and embellishment in certain areas. But I think that you'll recognize a lot of this. And this is essentially who we are. Our mission statement and how we realize our mission is a characterization of who we are. And I would strongly encourage you to take a look at this at your leisure and in detail. Then on the next section, it explains how we got here. So folks understand all of the input that was involved in this, all of the hard work and the investments, and then it ends with where we're going to go from here. And the provost is going to talk in a minute about this. But in the last section is the ideas, that the distillation of all the work that went into that came out as strategic plan. And it's broken down to sections. It's the first one is on the student experience, then one for faculty and staff development, our economic sustainability, and the last section is on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Keisha will talk about the last section at the end of this, towards the end of this town hall meeting. But again, nothing is going to be unfamiliar with you. These are all topics that came out of the strategic planning sessions, and we distilled it down, and we will be moving on as many of these in parallel fashion as we can. They're going to involve different parts of the campus, so we'll be able to undertake much of this very quickly and efficiently, but the outcome may take a little bit longer because things are slow moving in higher education, and rightfully so, because we want to make sure we get it right. So with that, I will do you want to go over any questions here, Ken, or do you want to turn it over to?
Let's turn it over to Sue. Sue's going to talk a little about specifics on some of these areas, and then we'll toss it to Keisha, and then we'll do all the strategic planning questions at the end.
Okay.
Right. One thing you could never ever say about the University of Michigan-Dearborn is that it is short of ideas. Over the course of that little wiggle map that Ken made, tons of great comments. Thank you, Ken. There's the little wiggle map. Tons of great concepts raised, explored throughout the process, and fuel for many decades of initiatives. But some things did bubble, and some especially that might have, I think have been encouraged by our new situation on campus and in higher education at large. So as you see, a big part of the landscape of institutional priorities is enhancing student experience and success. Want you to know this will be led overall by the Office of the Provost, its divisions of academic affairs and enrollment management, which means me and Melissa Stone, our VP for enrollment management, together with our heroic and very, very hardworking teams. But under that, there's sort of various connected bubbles. You see the ideas sort of broken out here more, but I would sort of break them into first financial aid and recruitment. Again, that's more in the enrollment management shop with Melissa, but underpinned, as I should say, just everything you see on the screen is by the support of Carrie Schumacher and ITS, with some very important infrastructure development and improvement that we're going to be implementing. Second, I think we'll be re-envisioning aspects of the student experiences we offer, sort of with an emphasis on alignment and coordination and transparency for our students. Some of this will be around the first year experience, some around academic support for our students in the broadest sense, and some around the harmonization of the many units on campus that stress high impact practices, experiential learning, and career and professional preparedness. Now, all this will be led by my two associate provosts, Mitch Sullenberger and Maureen Linker, who is, you all know, also director of the Mardigian Library. And I should say the library is turning into a very rich potential partner on numerous of these developments. Other partners will, of course, be more colleges and their deans, the Office of Student Affairs and Dean Amy Findlay. And I should also say I'm drawing heavily on the expertise of this year's Provost Fellows, Natalie Sampson from Chess and Marie Wang from Castle. Another institutional priority, I think we're changing background color here, is faculty and staff excellence. Again, the deans and I will be leading the charge together with the Office of Research, with the Office of Human Resources, and we will of course be turning to Faculty Senate and Staff Senate for advice and counsel. Now, urban futures, and I saw your questions, Sven. Yes, still very much, as you can see, a priority, and I'm going to be putting out a call to try to convene some meetings, and this has been postponed by the pandemic, but to convene some meetings that's going to encourage us to sort of assess and put on the table our existing numerous and very strong Dearborn assets in this space, our research, our community partners, our industry partners, our governmental partners, and map out across the university, where it makes sense for us to go, where we can dive in and make a distinctive difference. What is our version of urban futures at the University of Michigan-Dearborn? Economic sustainability, without which nothing, be led by on his or her or his arrival by our new Vice Chancellor for Business Affairs, Carol Glick, our Director of Facilities, Melissa Stone, who had better not have any plans to sleep for the next year, and enrollment management, and Cassandra Ulbrich, our Vice Chancellor for Institutional Advancement. And I will leave the DEI down below for Keisha to talk about in a sec. Now, I realize that all sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but I'm happy to just remind everyone that some very, very smart people have been chewing on all this already, and we are generating directions and plans to sort of share and workshop with you soon. I do think the payback on this entire process will be immense, and I think the process itself maybe even will be enjoyable. I'll leave it at that.
I'm sure it's going to be more enjoyable than pandemic planning. And
Yeah, in some ways, some of this stuff is actually fun to think about. I know it seems like a ton of, oh God, more to think about. But actually, I think we can try to get in the space of it. This is why all of us got into this in the first place, is a lot of this stuff. So with luck, we'll have a little fun with it.
Totally agree. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing this card, and now I'm going to pull up Keisha's presentation. Hello, Keisha.
Hello. So thank you. I just want to give us a little bit of an overview of where we have gone with some of the strategic planning initiatives and how they will impact what's to come with the DEI initiative. So you may recall in his inaugural address, the Chancellor articulated the 4 priorities that you see here: student experience and success, faculty and staff excellence, economic sustainability, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion. These priorities became the basis for the areas of focus in the strategic planning process, and as a result, 5 strategic planning working groups were formed. Through the strategic planning process, the campus community built upon these critical priorities and developed recommendations to move us forward in these areas. The campus provided input via town hall meetings, focus groups, small group discussions, and also providing feedback on the strategic planning website. After significant consideration after significant consideration of all of the various input, the Chancellor and the senior leadership team selected ideas for further development and implementation. Moving forward, teams of faculty and staff from across the campus will collaborate to implement various recommendations.
Keisha, just let me know when to advance the slide.
Next slide, please.
Perfect timing.
So I just want to emphasize a couple of things. We have a goal, as the Provost said earlier, of making sure that there's coordination, alignment, and synergy between what we're currently doing in these areas on campus and what the new efforts and initiatives will be focusing on. The ideas, recommendations, and strategies that came out of the strategic planning process have been incorporated into the DEI initiative, student success initiatives, as well as the strategic enrollment management plan, because we recognize that we're doing many things well, and we want to not only focus on, we don't need to focus on starting from scratch, but we want to build upon our current efforts and ensure that there is alignment between all of our efforts. So the units responsible for each of these functions will be involved in the process, as well as the implementation of various strategies. Next slide, please. Specifically related to the DEI working group, the first meeting was on Friday, this past Friday. The working group includes more than 30 faculty, staff, and student volunteers from across the campus. The group is being co-led by Dean Ann Lampkin-Williams and Professor Deborah Smith-Pollard. Beginning this summer and in the recent months, we have all met with various groups on campus to learn about their experiences, to hear their ideas, as well as to learn recommendations. So for example, we met with faculty and staff senate. We met with a group that has been interested in exploring institutional racism, as well as participating in the Care and Equity Committee meetings. The Chancellor and Provost also hosted listening sessions for faculty, staff, and students related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So all of these meetings, all of these conversations have helped inform the areas of focus for the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiative. And to accomplish the work, the working group has decided to divide into 5 subgroups to develop the recommendations and then share those recommendations with the Provost and Chancellor. Okay, next slide, please. The areas of focus are the ones you see here. We will develop a statement of our common principles and beliefs, research, scholarship, teaching, and service that highlights and responds to issues related to inclusion and equity, broadening or expanding pathways for access, supporting success and nurturing growth for faculty, staff, and students, and then fostering inclusive, welcoming, and equitable campus environment. And then lastly, how we will partner with and expand on engaging with members of the community, your community groups, to work on issues of mutual importance. The working group will develop recommendations as well as strategic objectives and metrics for each of the 5 areas so that we are very clear about what we seek to accomplish, and we can assess whether or not we are headed where or we've accomplished what we set out to do. Next slide. Okay. In terms of the timeline, during the month of November and December, the working group will continue to meet and will engage with various campus groups, including student groups, as well as alumni, over the course of the month. And then in December, some of the initial ideas and recommendations will be shared with the Chancellor and Provost to ensure that we're headed in the right direction and get some feedback. And then finally, in January and February, the final recommendations will be due to the Chancellor and Provost. We will also provide updates to the campus via the website, as well as there is an email that we can submit feedback, or you can, the campus community can submit feedback to.
Okay. So with a couple thoughts, a couple of things I'll add on. So as the Chancellor mentioned, we did put the PDF document up on the strategic planning website. I will be the first to say that is not best practice, but it is a place to direct people. We knew we have a lot of people on this call. They're going to want that information. By the end of this calendar year, we'll have that strategic planning site revamped because now we're moving into the implementation of a lot of these ideas. And so we're going to transition from the working groups and the situational analysis and all of that great work that's been done. That will stay on the website, but it's going to be reorganized and populated with new content. And then we're also working with Keisha on getting a web presence for the DE&I working group and the activities that are surrounding that initiative as well. So I don't believe that exists yet. It will, but that's work to come over the next 6 weeks. So I just wanted to share that. And with that, we have 6 minutes. I'm going to pull up the Q&A. I'll ask my panelists to do that as well to see if there's any particular questions that we feel we have not addressed. I'm going to quickly scan. I was not doing that. I was driving the slides. So there was one. This piggybacks on what the staff faculty and staff working environment could look like in March, but if able, will faculty and staff return to campus to work in March? And I believe the answer to that is, I mean, there's going to be, I think, a slightly greater percentage of classes that are going to be offered in person, but I believe the same structure that we have for the fall will continue for the winter. I'm seeing Sue, you're nodding your head. Domenico, Laura, anything you want to add?
If we can.
Yeah.
If we can.
Absolutely.
So,
Someone asked a question about the Boyer model of scholarship and if there's a stronger reference in the Wikipedia site. The strongest reference is his book called Scholarship Reconsidered. You can get it on Amazon. We did not want to link to an Amazon website, but he describes his model of scholarship in the book, which many of us have read more than once.
This question, not surprising, this one came up that the campus is closed. We're closing around on December 22nd, or technically the 23rd, yet final exams are given through the 21st. Grades need to be put in. Will campus support be available, particularly the registrar's office for faculty trying to enter grades through December 24?
Yeah, I can take this one. I have offline, Tim and the team will support any questions that come in. I have asked them to put something out in advance to make sure people know who they need to reach. But yes, we will make sure that there is availability for support through that deadline.
I wonder, the question that just came in about SEM planning, is that a good one? Ken, ask Melissa to just comment on that.
Sure. I just saw that one. Will there be a working group for the SEM plan?
Yeah, so yes, there will, but I think that we'll be probably doing phased approaches too. I think that really a lot of the initiatives that were identified in the strategic plan feed up into a SEM plan. And so the plan in the next couple months is to essentially give a kind of short-term SEM plan of all the initiatives that have been identified while we do a larger SEM planning session where there will be committees developed. So for those who, I mean, a lot of this had started in the spring. Ironically, we had a meeting, I want to say first week in March, where we were starting to kind of craft working groups and strategic planning committees, but we all know what happened the second week in March. And so I think that with everything going on with the strategic planning initiatives, want to sort of move forward with SEM planning, but there'll be sort of 2 phases to it. So yes, there will be an opportunity for people to be invested in that process.
Ken, I also want to address, there's a question about the investment from Ann Arbor. And I want to make it clear again, that it's not a $10 million investment. It's $20 million between the 2 campuses. And there was never any commitment that it would be parsed out equally. But how that money is going to be used is going to be based on our strategic plan, with emphasis on student success, and using the strategic plan as a guide that was informed by many people, and looking at where we can best invest those resources to enhance student success. There was also a question about, do we have the resources to continue athletics? I just want to say, like many schools across the country, athletics does not make money, and it is a unit that requires our investment to run. And as with any of our units, we're always evaluating the best use of our resources to make sure that it's consistent with our main mission, which is educating our students.
There's a question here. There are students living at the Union. Why aren't we concerned about our students living there? They aren't commuters. I would argue we do care about them. I know we just announced a testing program, and Amy, I don't know if I think you're still on this, if you wanted to address some of the outreach and the work and the inclusion efforts that we're doing for those students, not only at the Union, but also at the Meadows and the Woods that are down the street. Yet we have a large student presence there. Amy?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ken. So just to reiterate, we are doing COVID testing, or making that available to students at the Meadows and the Woods and the Union at Dearborn. They'll be getting a communication later today to that effect. One of the reasons we're doing that is because we know a lot of people will be traveling home, potentially to family over the holidays for Thanksgiving, and maybe interacting with grandparents or others in the family who might be immunocompromised. And one of the best practices is to ensure that students have the opportunity to test to know that they do not have COVID before they would travel. Many of our international students as well have said that they are interested in traveling home, since they will have no need to be back to campus till March 1. And so again, just ensuring they're not carrying the virus with them. We have been in contact with the Union, so doing a lot to support students there who maybe are quarantining or who can't leave. So for example, we've dropped food off from the food pantry to the front doors of apartments. We have delivered toilet paper because this is 2020. And so we're doing a lot in terms of student support. We're getting a lot of calls on our COVID hotline. Again, please feel free to share with students. Our number is 313-593-5056, or anyone can email Dearborn COVID support. And it doesn't have to be related to a physical health concern. Our students are dealing with a whole lot as a result of the pandemic, and we're there to support them on all of those fronts. Our student life team and our CAPS team and our CSJ and others have developed a series of programs also that are all online, trying different formats, videotaping, putting on YouTube, so that students can access programs at times that are convenient to them, when they want it, on demand. So just as example, our counseling team has over 70 recorded workshops now on the YouTube site, so that students can access trainings on mindfulness, yoga, meditation, stress management, all of those kinds of things. So lots of ways for students to engage. It is different. We are certainly virtual, but we are still thinking of and developing creative ways for students to stay a part of their community.
And I just want to add to Amy's, we care about all of our students, whether they're in the Union or in any of the other apartments in in Dearborn or anywhere else, and whether they're at their family homes. So we care about all of our students. We just have a peculiar arrangement with the union that in some ways limits our ability to do things, but we're very concerned about the students, our students there, and all the students there.
Domenico, one last question, timely. In your conference with the governor, did she give any indication on any coming lockdowns or any type of state direction that she may be taking that you could share? If she did comment on that at all?
Well, that was actually asked during the meeting, and she did point out that the recent Supreme Court decision has limited her ability to make any unilateral lockdown decisions. So that's probably an unlikely scenario going forward because of the recent state Supreme Court decision. But there is a lot of concern. She's asked all the presidents to ask the students to be very careful about quarantining before they leave campus, quarantining when they arrive at their residence, where they're going, being tested in both directions. And if they do return, Ann Arbor is not returning either. They're going remote as we are. But there are other campuses in the state that are returning, and to be very careful. And it's not, campuses are an unusual community because of how they operate. So it's a point of concern across the state.
So I do realize there were some questions that came in advance. They were very Castle specific. All those questions were shared with the provost office, and some of you will be in contact. You will be contacted personally on some of the concerns. We did not get to all of the questions, but please feel free to ask your supervisor. Things will get back to the right senior officer to address questions that we did not address. And I just wanted to quickly thank Anitra and Kamel and Maria for helping set this up and keeping everything operating. I always do. We can't do it without you, so thank you. Domenico, any final words before we wrap up?
No, first, Ken, I want to thank you for emceeing this. You, as always, you do a terrific job. I want to thank the provost and Keisha for their presentations, and Laura, of course, for all the fine work she's doing, and everyone else who's helped make this a success on the leadership team. But again, I want to thank the faculty, staff, and the students for their resilience and their teamwork and their perseverance during this incredibly crazy time that we're all living through right now.
Thank you. So with that, we'll end the webinar. Again, this will be posted on the website, included in Reporter. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a good rest of the week.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
folks.
Bye-bye.